a band that terrified parents, electrified teenagers, and become one of the most controversial forces in heavy metal history. For me, it was the band that introduced me to heavy metal when I first discovered Inside the Electric Circus at a record shop in Launceston, Tasmania. That also started my fascination and admiration of W.A.S.P. And this is the story of how they rose, fell, evolved, and survived 4 decades of chaos, creativity, and controversy. Before W.A.S.P., before the PMRC hearings, before the blood, the saw blades, and the raw meat, there was Stephen Edward Duran, the kid from Staten Island who would become Blackie Lawless. Blackie grew up surrounded by religion, rebellion, and a fascination with theatrical rock. And no one shaped him more than Alice Cooper. The makeup, the guillotines, the horror show theatrics. Blackie didn't just admire it. He wanted to outdo it. In the mid-70s, he joined Killer Kane, a project with Arthur Kane of the New York Dolls. But Los Angeles was calling, and Blackie answered. There he joined London, a band that became a revolving door for future rock royalty. Nikki Sixx, Izzy Stradlin, Slash, Steven Adler, Fred Coury. London wasn't famous for its albums, it was famous for the legends who passed through it. Blackie and Nikki Sixx formed a close, competitive relationship. 2 ambitious young musicians obsessed with shock, image, and really pushing the boundaries. But while Nikki formed Motley Crue, Blackie had something darker in mind. And by 1982, he had assembled the band that would finally unleash his vision. The first official W.A.S.P. lineup formed: Blackie Lawless, Chris Holmes, Randy Piper, and Tony Richards, the one the band themselves recognised as the true starting point of the band. Their early shows were violent, theatrical, and unpredictable. Blackie hurled raw meat into the crowd. The stage was decorated with torture racks, skulls, and blood. Parents were horrified, but teenagers were obsessed. Their debut single, Animal, was released independently through Music for Nations. Pressed in small quantities, the original Music for Nations 7-inch is now one of the most highly sought after metal collectibles in the world. And then their debut album came out. In August 1984, the album was a mix of sleaze, shock, and anthemic metal, featuring I Wanna Be Somebody, one of the most defining metal songs of the decade. The UK embraced them first, thanks to Kerrang! Magazine. Then came MTV. Their videos for Love Machine and I Wanna Be Somebody exploded across television screens and turned W.A.S.P. into one of the most talked about new bands of the decade. They headlined UK tours before they even cracked the American market, capped off with the legendary Live at the Lyceum video. Before recording their second album, Tony Richards was gone. His reliability was inconsistent. His personality also clashed with Blackie's leadership. The split was fast and final. To replace him, W.A.S.P. recruited Steve Riley, a disciplined, precise drummer who recorded all of the drum tracks on The Last Command. And The Last Command was released in November 1985. The album featured Wild Child and Blind in Texas, and this album pushed W.A.S.P further into the US mainstream. It was bigger, cleaner, and more commercially focused than their debut. In 1986, Inside the Electric Circus came out. Blackie has openly criticised this album. He felt that the band was exhausted through over-touring and they were creatively drained. He later said the album was W.A.S.P on autopilot. But for many fans, this was their introduction to the band, including this young metalhead from Launceston, Tasmania. A Sunday newspaper article announced W.A.S.P's new album Inside the Electric Circus, and off I ran to get their new debut album, as the news article said. Except it wasn't new, it was their third album. But that mistake didn't matter, because for thousands of fans worldwide, Electric Circus was the gateway into W.A.S.P. Next was Live in the Raw, and this was released in November 1987. This was a ferocious live album capturing W.A.S.P at their most dangerous. This era wasn't just about live power, it was also about war. W.A.S.P became one of the primary targets of the PMRC, the censorship group led by Tipper Gore. They were placed on the infamous Filthy 15 list, accused of corrupting youth with violence, sex, and satanic imagery. But Blackie didn't back down. He fought back. Songs like Harder, Faster and Manimal were direct attacks on the PMRC, mocking their attempts to silence the band. This era also produced Scream Until You Like It, the theme song for Ghoulies 2, giving the band global recognition outside of the metal world.
In
1989 was huge for W.A.S.P, with The Headless Children released in April of that year. It was a dramatic reinvention. Gone was the shock rock sleaze. In its place, political commentary, introspection, and musical maturity. The album opens with Thunderhead, a powerful and emotional epic. Blackie also included The Who's The Real Me, because its themes of identity and chaos mirrored the album's message. And then there was Mean Man, a wild, chaotic, affectionate ode to Chris Holmes. Chris Holmes and Blackie were brothers in chaos. Chris wasn't just the guitarist. He was Blackie's right-hand man, his partner in crime, his brother in chaos. Their bond was intense, creative, volatile, and deeply personal. Together, they created a chemistry that defined the early W.A.S.P sound. But that same chemistry was also combustible. Their friendship went through highs and lows, breakups and reunions, and moments of brilliance and moments of absolute collapse. Yet through it all, there was a connection that neither of them could deny. And Mean Man is Blackie's way of saying, I see you, I know you, and despite everything, you're still my brother. This era also marked the arrival of Frankie Banali, best known as the powerhouse drummer from Quiet Riot. Banali played on The Headless Children and brought a heavier, more disciplined punch to W.A.S.P's evolving sound. The Crimson Idol was then released in June of 1992. This is a concept album about a broken young musician destroyed by fame. This is widely believed to reflect Blackie's own experiences, but it has never been confirmed by Blackie himself. Frankie Banali returned to deliver another powerhouse performance, helping elevate the album into one of the band's greatest achievements.